Greetings, chess fans. The 58th International Biel Chess Festival has officially hit the middle point because we have a lot more games played here in the Biel Congress Center. Today, the GMT Masters and Challengers played out the fourth round of the second leg of the triathlon. Once again, it's a combination of three tournaments: Rapid, Classical, and Blitz. Today, they played out the fourth round out of 5. So we have selected the game of the day, which is Salem Saleh with the white color playing against Vladimir Fedoseev, which also turned out to be the only decisive game of the day. So here the Emirati Grandmaster played d4, d5, c4, e6, switching to the Catalan, very popular choice. Fedoseev quickly played c6 with an idea to position the bishop on b6 as quickly as possible. So b6, should castle, bishop e7, knight c3, should castle b3. All of this is theoretical discussion. And one of the big ideas why black played c6 before b6, so that in case white plays c takes on d5, black can safely recapture with c takes on d5 and not to have any weaknesses at the queen side. So here a5 was played, rook e1, white was clearly eyeing for the e4 push. Fedoseev played knight e7, knight e2, bishop a6, e4. So this is still an opening discussion here. Fedoseev, after some thought, played d takes on c4 with an idea that if white will play b takes on c4, black can play e5 and gain a very nice control of the dark squares. White played knight takes on c4 here, and black here can play b5, but Fedoseev decided to try a different approach. So he took on c4, play b takes on c4 and e5. Once again, the idea is that if white plays d5, which the engine still really like from white's perspective, black at least controls these dark squares. So here, Saleh played knight e2, and it seems that he has a very nice position, maybe most like bishop b2 and queen c2. And here, Fedoseev made a pretty big mistake. So he played e takes on d4, which feels pretty weird because he allows white to activate his own knight. Of course, knight takes on d4 happened, knight e5 was played, hitting the pawn on c4, answering with a counterattack bishop f4. So I'm pretty sure that Fedoseev saw this, and the idea is that you cannot play knight takes on c4. There's going to be knight takes on c6. If black takes queen d1, a very important intermezzo check, knight takes on e7, and black loses a piece for nothing. So that's why Fedoseev played knight fg4. So his idea was to play bishop c5 and organize a counterplay against the pawn on f2 and the knight on d4. Things would be great for him if not for knight takes on c6. Apparently, Fedoseev simply had blundered the simple idea. Now, again, the point is, after queen takes on d1, it's going to be a very important intermezzo check, knight takes on e7. And if he plays knight takes on c6, the only move, queen takes on g4, white is simply up a pawn and a strong bishop pair. So basically, black's position is just lost. So from here on, Fedoseev was putting up a very fearsome resistance. So he found some very good moves like knight e4, knight f3 check, he took on e1. Of course, Saleh was very accurate. He decided to keep the bishop pair. He played bishop b7. Again, Fedoseev was fighting some very good moves like knight d3, bishop c7, and knight b4. And here, of course, white gonna take? Bishop takes on b6 because of rook b8 pin. The bishop on b7 and b6 will be pinned. And here Saleh made a small inaccuracy, a4, which gave hope for Vladimir. The best move here, according to the engine, was move rook d1, ignoring the pawn on a2, but enabling the threat of bishop takes on b6 and rook d7 to protect the bishop on b7. So here might be moves like knight takes on a2, bishop takes on b6, rook b8, rook d7, and white eventually should win the game. So what happened in the game is that white played a4, and this allowed Fedoseev to reorganize the pieces. So knight e3, knight c5, white had to retreat, knight e7. Slowly but carefully, somehow Fedoseev managed to keep the pawn on b6 alive. And finally, we transposed the second critical position of the game. King f8, g4, f6. So this is the move that Fedoseev later would regret. He did not have to play f6 because this allowed eventually white to crash through at the king's side. The better chance here was to play h6 and try to keep things close. For example, play h4, potentially maybe rook d8. And the point is, if this rook goes to g1, knight takes on a4 might be a counterplay, and white needs to show some pretty impressive technique. The game is winning, but you still have to work a lot. But Fedoseev made his faithful move f6, and now things become really difficult for him. So h4 was played. Rook g1 was played. As you can see, knight x on a4 does not work because of bishop c6. The knight on a4 is under attack, so is the rook on e8. He played king e7, and here white crashed through. Bishop c3, g takes on f6, rook g7, king d6, and rook g6 with a threat e5. Also, black cannot play king e7 because after e5, the pawn on b6 is going to be falling, so he had to play king c7, and the simple move bishop takes on c5. I mean, according to the chess engine, there were other moves as well, but this is the cleanest, removing black of any counterplay. King g4, rook h8, and king f5. Now, normally this position would be a draw if not for the rooks on the board. Here white has all kinds of ideas, like either play e5 or even in some extreme scenarios sacrifice the exchange on f6 and then roll forward to connected pass pawns. The game continued with rook h4, rook g3, rook g7, and white did take the pawn on f6. King e6, rook h4, e5, and black cannot save the game because white wants to play king d7, e6, e7, and simply win the game. It didn't really continue for long, so here Saleh was being accurate, spending carefully his time to make sure there's no counterplay. e6, king c7, another accurate move, rook b3, going for some checkmate ideas, and finally after rook h8, the last accurate move, rook h3. So the point here is that after rook h3, white simply wants to play rook takes on h4, and if you think this is a blunder, bishop d8 check, it's not a blunder because after king d7, rook h3, king d8, white simply promotes, and this rook cannot do anything. And that's why here after rook h3, after a longer thought, Fedoseev stopped the clock. So this was once again the only decisive game of round 4, and the current standings after the 4th round of the classical tournament are as follows. So Fedoseev has lost his shared lead in the master section because now it's Aravind who today played a draw with the black color against Radoslav Wojtaszek, who is the new leader of the tournament. But the victory allows Salem Saleh to climb to the 3rd place and be closer for the final stage, and of course also the Blitz event, which is going to happen after the 5th round of the classical tournament. Frederick Svane today had a very, very nice position against Volodar Murzin. At some point it was pretty large advantage. He missed his chances and eventually settled for a draw. In the meantime, in the Challengers tournament, all games were drawn, so nothing really changes. Nicolas Theodorou keeps his lead with 19 points in hot pursuit by Aram Hakobian and Jubabayev in the 3rd place. So the action is going to come back tomorrow, as usual, 2 p.m. Central European Summer Time. So use the opportunity to watch a live stream on Biel Chess Festival's YouTube channel. You can also follow my own YouTube and Twitch channels. So come back tomorrow and see you in the live streams.